Hello, and thank you for joining us during International Leadership Week 2021 at the end of day one. I'm Gaynor and I'm Director of Strategic Partnerships at the Institute of Leadership and Management. And I'm delighted to be joined today by Madiha Khalid, HR Director at Shell Pakistan Limited, and Florence Tan, Corporate Responsibility, Wellbeing and Diversity Senior Manager at PwC Malaysia. And we're going to explore the topic of the future of women in the workplace. But just before we start that discussion, a quick introduction to the Institute, a professional body focusing on developing leadership capability for over 70 years to achieve our overall mission of inspiring great leadership everywhere in just over 70 countries to date, some of which are represented here by our panel. So by way of introduction, it would be great if I could ask Madiha firstly to share with us why, effectively, you were interested in supporting International Leadership Week. Over to you.
Thank you very much for having me. And my primary interest in supporting International Leadership Week this year is because of how we've seen the different changes in terms of leadership requirements as we are navigating through these unprecedented times. And I was very curious to see how leadership in these times differs from how leadership was defined in the past. And lastly, I think when we zoom in on leadership and what role we can play to support women stay in the workforce, that is an area of personal passion and interest. And that's what drew me to be part of this great week. Thank you for having me.
Thank you very much. We're delighted that you could join us. And Florence, what inspired you to be supportive of International Leadership Week?
Well, firstly, thank you for inviting me to share on this very important topic. I think it's a great platform to continue the discussion on keeping women at work, especially now with the COVID-19 pandemic and the changing circumstances around managing responsibilities at home and at work. And I think this is a brilliant platform to be inspired and to learn from others.
Fantastic, thank you. So let's literally delve into this core topic. You may have heard reports in your regions as well of a significant number of women that are leaving the workforce due to the COVID-19 pandemic. And it's referred to as the mass exodus of women. For example, approximately 2.5 million women lost their jobs or left the workforce during the pandemic. That's 1 in 4 women surveyed as part of McKinsey's 2020 Women in the Workplace study. And it indicated that they were either contemplating downshifting their careers or leaving the workforce altogether. We just wondered how this is playing out in your organisations and maybe what are the core challenges facing women in the workplace? Madiha, if I could refer that question to you first.
Sure. So at Shell, what we're seeing more and more is, as you've said, what the world is facing. We're seeing more and more women take a break as part of their career, not only to look after their families or to, balance their competing priorities, but we're also seeing women taking a pause to really think about what internal purpose they would like to pursue. So at least in Shell, I'm seeing women take up further education. They're looking at diversifying their skill set, and again, looking at furthering the core education and the competence building. I'm seeing some women take a back step to take care of their children, because as you know, schooling has also become a hybrid of virtual and face-to-face. And certainly in our culture, parents and extended family are also something that becomes very much part of the women's responsibility. So I'm seeing more and more women take a break to try to balance this out. And yeah, really, that's one of the reasons why I was interested to speak today, because I think we need to be very, very mindful of what long-term impact this is going to have on the women workforce.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And I think it is that longer term position that we're seeing now. From the perspective of PwC, Florence, just draw you off mute, and it would be lovely to hear how is it reflected in your organisation?
Similar to Madiha's situation, because of the quarantine and lockdown measures, which started last March, school and daycare and domestic help were either closed or not available. And so we have situations where the kids are at home and they need help with their schoolwork, or a sick family member need caring for. These roles traditionally fall to the women, in addition to running a household and cooking and working full time. So those people who remain at work and then don't choose to opt out of the workforce, there has been an onslaught of virtual meetings, sometimes back to back. And many of our people, because of this working from home and virtual meetings, many end up working very, very long hours, having no time for their own well-being, which has an impact. It's quite a severe impact on their mental health, and we have not seen that. How will this play out in the long term, even?
Yeah, absolutely. And in identifying some of those core challenges being around the childcare, the responsibility more predominantly falling to the woman in the household, and also the additional stress and pressure of being almost online constantly, what sorts of, I suppose, supports or responses are organisations starting to put into place? So how are we helping, I guess, to overcome these key challenges? Madiha, are there any particular approaches that you've seen organisations take?
Yeah, I think one of the things which might be common for a lot of others as well is providing as much flexibility as possible for women and other people to do the job from when it makes sense. So people are working all sorts of odd hours, because they're trying to fit in so many things. So that flexibility is absolutely there. But like Florence said, that flexibility sometimes results in people working overtime and being overcompensatory for not being able to do the traditional 9 to 5. So the additional support that we are providing our staff is around a lot of help on mental well-being and mental health. In fact, this Friday we have a stand down for mental health, and all of the second half of Friday is actually off for everybody to just pick a hobby and or anything that they love and just spend time doing that. So we have a lot of regular mental health and well-being programs, not just for employees, but their families, their kids, their parents. And it's sort of, open for opt-in, opt-out. So whatever makes sense for you, you choose it. We also have a running sort of a reimbursement allowance for wellness, where you can go and enroll in, a physical sort of a class, or you can pick up a new hobby and the company will reimburse you for it. Whatever makes sense for you. You could go buy fitness equipment, you could go buy an instrument, a musical instrument, whatever takes, help, whatever makes you physically and mentally better. We're reimbursing those expenses as well. So those are the kind of additional support systems that we have put in, knowing full well that flexibility alone is not the solution to supporting everybody through this time.
Gosh, yes, I'm going to take on board some of those ideas for sure. I like the stand down Friday. Florence, is there anything to add to that? Anything in particular? And also looking at your area of focus around well-being, anything that you'd like to add?
Yeah, thanks. So we have had this program called the Flex Plus program since 2013, and includes programs like Flex Time and Flex Space. But because of this entire work from home situation, I think the emphasis here is getting our leaders and our people to kind of understand that there is trust is really important. and also accountability. So to focus on outcomes rather than looking at the hours that you clock in front of a laptop. So you can still work, deliver on outcomes, but then at the time when it's convenient for you.
Mm,
Yeah.
absolutely. Absolutely.
And we also have a few well-being programs that have come out of the pandemic. We have this thing called Flex Friday, which actually started earlier. It sounds like Madiha's Stand Down Friday. So every second Friday of the month, we can leave work at 12, and clock off at 12. The new ones are this thing called Block Your O'Clock. So it's to kind of take hold again, take control of your time again. So instead of blocking an entire hour for a meeting, to kind of set the agenda, do it efficiently, effective, end it in 45 minutes. So you've got time to kind of regroup your thoughts, take a little break before hopping on to the next meeting. And also, Madiha, you mentioned something around opting in. The other option under Block Your O'Clock is the team agreeing to no lunchtime meetings. So at least in the middle of the day, when you are kind of like taking a break from the screen all day, then at least you can have a little bit of a downtime at lunch. The other thing that we have also started is the Wellbeing Pact. What is this pact? It's sort of like an agreement in a team between leaders and people on the team to work on a couple of well-being habits that would improve their well-being at work. This is so that then there is a consistent well-being experience across the firm, even if you don't come for a well-being class, for example, or a workout class, right? So what people can do is look at the pact, look at a couple of habits that they want to do together as a team, and then do it consistently over time.
Brilliant.
Yeah, so it's called a pact because it's an agreement between a leader and their teams. One other thing that I wanted to kind of share is we have these workshops called Be Well Together. They're for managers and above, and it's especially there's two components to it. One is to kind of share about how you can take care of your own well-being, and once you do that well, then you can take care of your team's well-being. And we kind of share about like mental health first aid elements, so that then you can identify if people in your team are facing mental health challenges.
Fantastic. And really supportive. But picking up, I think both elements are really picking up on the sort of aspect of, us taking better care of ourselves, but being supported and trusted by our organizations to help us to do that. And literally another area that has really come through in some of the research that's taken place is around how critical it is to also look at the next generation of leaders. So millennials, as we know, are going to make up about 75% of the global workforce. And millennial women are seeking out employers with a strong track record of equality and diversity. So literally just wondered what plans you might have to support the next generation, particularly that next generation of women coming through the workforce. Is there anything in particular that you feel might support that? Madiha, any comments on that?
Yeah, so I think our leadership development, particularly for younger women or upcoming talent, has not differed much from COVID times to pre-COVID times, and we do have programs set up to enable not just mentoring and coaching, but also sponsorship, which becomes really critical when you're looking out for roles and promotion opportunities. The other thing that I feel very proud about at Shell is that any opportunity which is open is first advertised internally. So the first option is always looking at internal talent, and we work like any other external application platform would work. Every opportunity is posted transparently across the company, not just the country, but across the company, go through the selection rounds. And during this time, your sponsors as well as your mentors play a great role in coaching our people and helping them achieve what they're looking for out of their careers. So that process remains, and we continue to sort of make sure that values on diversity and inclusion by making sure leaders are trained on biases and unconscious biases in making transparent recruitment decisions. And also, when it comes to taking a bet on younger talent, they have more appetite and they have more sort of longer term view on diversity within their team and the mix that they have within the team as well. So those are some of the things which I feel are not sort of very different from how it was pre-COVID. And we continue to build on those and sort of refine these for the future.
Fantastic, thank you. And I just wonder, Florence, is there anything in addition to add to that? Mentoring, sponsorship, absolutely, in the workplace to really help encourage and that transparency around the recruitment process is key as well, in order to ensure that those unconscious biases are not seeping through in those recruitment processes too. Anything to add or in agreement?
Well, I totally agree with Madiha. I think we're so aligned on all these initiatives. So at PwC Malaysia, we have curated our own unconscious bias workshop that looks at sharing what it is, and then also have areas where people can practice looking at biases that might come out at two critical career path junctions. Well, one is at recruitment and the other one is at promotion. So then people can kind of look at, if they look at the CV, what might come up biases wise. So that's one. I would just like to quote a PwC thought leadership called the Female Millennial New Area of Talent. It shows that millennial women look out for opportunities for career progression, and this is the same for whether younger women with 3 years or less experience, and also the same as for women with 9 or more years of experience. So both these groups of women, they want opportunities for career progression. So at PwC, we kind of make sure that there is opportunity to shine and progress in the firm, and ensure that there are many role models in the of women in the firm as well. So speaking of role models, as of July 2021, we have 43 women partners and almost 50% directors who are women. And for senior managers and managers, we have got 60% women. And of course, some business units do better than the others, and we're in the midst of looking at inclusion and diversity targets for these business units.
That's really interesting, actually. Yes, and you're also placing targets as a part of that aspiration for getting more female women at the senior levels. In actual fact, it's also part of our broader challenge, because we know that women make up more than half of the workforce across the world. But when they get to the more senior roles, the more senior levels within organizations, this really falls away, and women are much, if you like, a shorter, smaller part of that representation. So I just wonder, Madiha, is there anything that you're aware of where you're really starting to identify, that need to get a greater representation of women at the senior levels?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that, while it will take time for women to come through the ranks, it's also important not to miss any opportunities when they present themselves. What I mean by that is that, a lot of times you will have opportunities at senior leadership levels where, you do have an opportunity to fill that gap by looking externally and bringing somebody in versus, going the tried and tested route of promoting somebody from within. The other thing that we do in Shell Pakistan specifically is that we've actually earmarked roles, which are, you can sort of say that they are, held for women. And these are roles where we need to develop more female talent. So for example, your top sales roles, we know we don't have enough representation. So whenever those roles open up, our first preference is to hire a female. Or, if it's difficult to resource roles like your head of legal, our preference would again be, first priority would be to get a female. And now this is based on what the mix of that business and the function looks like, where we see skill and diversity gaps, and how far we're prepared to go to fill that gap. Meaning, are we willing to wait the 4 or 5 months that it takes to get somebody in, and are we prepared to take those calls? So those are sort of the measures that we have in place to make sure that we're looking at this on a real-time basis versus realizing later on that we've now.
Absolutely. Just wondering if that actually poses any business challenges in trying to get that sort of measure and actually meeting, whether it be the targets that Florence mentioned, or, really having that sort of design. It's almost purposeful in the sort of, desire to say we are going to be proactive in the way that we encourage and open up and hold those opportunities for women leaders to come and take those roles. So are there any particular challenges that you've had to overcome in delivering on that?
Absolutely. And I think it's been a journey for us to bring the senior leadership along on this journey, because by default, some of them actually held a bias that there are certain roles that women cannot do. For example, your operational roles that require you to be at facilities and hardcore engineering operations. There was almost a mindset that you'll never be able to find somebody. So what are you even talking about? And I think that, once we got those examples in and we found talent and they saw that talent developing, that became an example of, we can do it. We just have to believe in it. And that journey, I tell you, I feel like we've come over the hump, but, every time we try to take a difficult call, there is a lot of convincing and there is a lot of powering through that needs to happen. And I think here's where my role becomes even more critical, because I believe I am a true example and testament of somebody taking a bet on me and believing in me to be even a director on the board. And these are things that have not happened in the past. So if I don't do the same for others, then I'm not living up to the ability that's been sort of granted to me. So it's not easy. It is a mindset that we have sort of worked through over the years, and it's not something that you overcome and you don't have to work on it again. It's a constant battle, but I think you need a lot of good examples and great leadership and commitment from the top to bring a change.
Yeah, no, fantastic. And you know what? You couldn't have talked us more easily and eloquently into my very next question, which was around how you may have both used role models as a way of, really giving you that inspiration and that commitment to be that, if in effect, yourselves providing that role model. So, Florence, have there been any particular instances or support role models that you have actually have influenced you, if you like, in your career?
Yes, there have been many instances and occasions where a role model at PwC have helped me get through a tough patch in life and my career at PwC. One that really stands out is when I was on a reduced work week for 5 years. I work 4 days a week after the birth of my son, which was 10 years ago. And during that time, as you can imagine, it was tough balancing work, expectations, and also learning the ropes of being a new mom. And so my mentor then helped me to kind of look and kind of reset my priorities. I still remember what she told me. Imagine like your career like you're driving on a highway, and there are times when you can press on the accelerator and really go fast, but there are times, and it's definitely okay to kind of like make a pit stop or drive a little slower to kind of take in the view a little bit. And this represents the many different phases in your life, and also your career. So I that really resonated with me, that I really didn't need to rush through life, or get to a certain level in my career next year, for instance. I can kind of see when I can expend more time, more effort, and then uh, put in that extra effort or extra boost when it's really needed. So what has also helped me was that there are many mentors at PwC who we can kind of like speak to or leverage off. So one also helped, the other also helped me with balancing this many portfolios, family, and also taking care of myself. Um, and the last one was having the confidence to speak at these public forums. Yeah, so that took a lot of me, because I'm an introvert. So this was a quite a something that I've also learned to take on over time.
Fantastic. And you've done it exceptionally well. Thank you very much, Florence. I started to talk about that sort of, as a sponsorship, but also that support or having those great examples. Is there anyone in particular that comes to mind for you?
I can so relate to the stories that Florence has shared, because like she said, I too have had many, sponsors and mentors at different parts of my career journey. And they've all, sort of helped and shaped the person that I am today. And I think the one that I'm going to talk about is the one who helped me through a time when I was really finding it difficult to balance, my role, my newborn son, and I was feeling so overwhelmed. And he just asked a question that sort of it shone a light on an area which I was completely sort of missing out. And he asked me, what does Madiha do for herself? And I listed lots of things, and those were all the things that I was doing for either my parents or my son or somebody else. And he kept asking the same question 3 or 4 times, and he said, what does Madiha do for herself? And I was so embarrassed that day, because I couldn't even come up with one thing that I was doing for my own well-being and for my own health and happiness. And that was a time where he really helped me take a pause and think about, yes, there's lots of stuff happening and there's lots to juggle, but at the end of the day, I too am important and I need to take care of myself. And in the same breath, he also told me, he said, sometimes you have to let the ball drop, and it's okay. and that was such a relief to hear, that there are no pressures to be the perfect juggler, and once in a while it's okay to let the ball drop.
Oh, fantastic.
That's from my side.
Thank you very much. Both great examples, really, of where you're using that support to build your confidence, but also allowing you the opportunity to say, do you know what, I don't have to be perfect all the time. And, that does seem to be that added pressure that we carry. Thank you both very, very much. You have been tremendous and inspirational, I think, role models moving forward in both of your organizations and for the audience that has joined us today. So for me, the real big takeaways have been that need for personal well-being, be it either Florence taking the foot off the accelerator or taking a pit stop. I love that. But also that, you know, that question that they kept coming back to for Madiha with regard to, you know, but what are you doing for yourself? As well as, you know, that sort of bigger well-being piece that, you know, we really do need our organisations to be a part of and to be supportive of. But equally, the fact that you took positive, proactive measures to support women in the workplace now, but also women to be encouraged to be in the workplace in the future and to take those more senior roles and have that confidence to take that leap. So thank you so much for joining us and being a part of our International Leadership Week 21. It's been great to have this conversation with you. Thoroughly enjoyed it. And there's an opportunity for our audience to actually engage in further discussion on the Institute website, so institutelm.com, and using the hashtag on my background, hopefully, hashtag ILW21. And our hub. So this is where we're continuing the dialogue and the conversation, because we'd love to hear other people's examples of, you know, their mentors, who their inspiration has really been in their career, and the challenges that we know we're still juggling with. It's an ongoing, definitely, challenge for all of us, but one I think that we're up for. Thank you so much indeed for joining us, and look forward to the rest of International Leadership Week. Take care. Bye.